Thank you for staying with us right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. My name is Esther Owachuku. Happy Eid Mubarak, and these are the top stories. Well, Governor Fubara speaks on political crisis in Rivers and makes promises. Also, Governor Akpabio meets with Senate Deputy President over Uromi killings, gave updates on suspects. IPOB cries out, claims Northerners plotting to attack Indibo over Edo massacre. Miyetti Allah cry out over alleged poisoning of cows in Benue. Meanwhile, Dele Momodu warns Akpabio to apologize to Natasha Akpoti. Meanwhile, Gaza authorities warn against Israeli crimes in Rafah following evacuation orders. Details now. Thank you for staying with us. The World News at 6 begins with the suspended governor of Rivers State, Sim Fubara, assuring residents that the ongoing political crisis in the state will ultimately strengthen the people rather than weaken them. VOP News understands that this statement was made during an Eid al-Fitr Salah visit from a delegation of Muslim leaders, including the Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, at his private residence in Port Harcourt. While addressing the delegation, Governor Fubara urged both the Muslim leaders and his supporters to trust in God's plan. He emphasized that this season of Eid, known for its love, sharing, and sacrifice, was symbolic of the current struggle. According to him, he disclosed that the political tension in the state that might leave many feeling discouraged, but reassured everyone that there were supernatural forces at play beyond human understanding. The suspended governor reiterated his administration's commitment to justice and equality, highlighting the vision for a society where no one is oppressed. He expressed regrets over his inability to formally reach out to the Muslim community during their celebrations, but reassured them that the relationship between religious groups and the government would be strengthened once the current political uncertainties are resolved. Fubara also assured the Muslim leaders that their pending request would be addressed after the crisis subsides. Drawing an analogy from religious history, Fubara called for patience and perseverance, and he said, and I quote, "If God could be patient with Noah to allow even the snail to enter the ark, then patience remains an essential virtue in our struggle." The suspended governor also cautioned against those seeking to incite violence and destabilize the state. Elsewhere, the governor of Edo State, Monday Akpabio, today paid a condolence visit to the deputy president of the Senate, Senator Barao Jibrin, following the tragic killing of travelers in Uromi, a Sun Northeast local government area of Edo State. The incident on Thursday saw a mob intercept innocent travelers en route to Kano State for Salah celebrations. The victims, who were hunters from Kano, were attacked and murdered after their vehicle was ransacked. Speaking during the visit to Senator Jibrin's Maitama residence in Abuja, Governor Akpabio expressed his deep sorrow over the brutal killings. He conveyed the condolences of the Edo State government and pledged assistance to the families of the victims. Akpabio revealed that 14 suspects had been arrested in connection with the killings and were being transferred to Abuja for further interrogation. He reassured that those responsible for the crime would be brought to justice, emphasizing that the state was taking swift action to ensure accountability. He also disclosed that a committee had been set up to provide support for the families of the deceased and ensure that their needs were met during this difficult time. He assured Senator Jibrin that the government was fully committed to seeing the perpetrators face the full wrath of the law. Responding, however, to the governor's visit, Senator Jibrin expressed his appreciation for the support and urged that the perpetrators of the heinous crime be brought to justice. He described the killings as barbaric and called for a swift action to serve as a deterrent to others. "We cannot undo what has been done, but all Nigerians are looking forward to making sure these people are arrested and brought to justice, and you are doing well in that direction." End quote. The Deputy Senate President also further praised the Edo State government for its quick response, noting that the unity and peaceful coexistence between people from different parts of the country in Edo had never been threatened by such an act before. Meanwhile, in reaction to the Edo killings, IPOB has eventually called on Igbos to prepare for self-defense following the gruesome murder of some northern travelers in Uromi, Edo State. Speaking via a statement, some Arewa groups are inciting violent assaults on Igbos and Christians in the north due to the killings in Edo State. The group warned the Hausa community to steer clear of ethnic tensions that could be detrimental to them. According to the quote, the statement reads in part, "The indigenous people of Biafra seeks to alert the Arewa group in northern Nigeria, highlighting they must halt their intended assaults immediately. We have learned that they have organized attacks against Indigo in the north due to the killing of the alleged Hausa hunters in Edo State. Conversely, native Hausas must exercise caution to avoid succumbing to the ethnic conflicts orchestrated by the same Fulanis who have been harming them and others. We have been reliably informed by our sources that certain individuals are already posing threats to Indigo in the north. We have received information that Fulani criminals have killed an innocent man, Uche Abagana, in Kofaruwa, Kano, due to the incident in Edo State. Indigo did not harm Hausa hunters traveling from Edo State to the north. Over the years, Indigo in the north have faced the worst of any ethnic conflicts in northern Nigeria. We urge the indigenous northerners to exercise caution. The Fulani should refrain from provoking indigenous Hausas to attack Indigo in the north over the regrettable mob incident that occurred in Edo State. IPOB, however, urged Indigo in northern Nigeria to maintain heightened security awareness, adhere to the law, and be prepared to protect themselves against potential threats. Furthermore, Indigo in Biafra land must also remain vigilant. Everyone must stay alert and prepared for self-defense since the Nigerian government and its tribally biased security forces prioritize the lives of the Fulanis over those of indigenous Nigerians, particularly the Hausas, both now and historically." End quote. Meanwhile, Miyetti Allah, Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, Makban, in Benue State, has expressed serious concerns regarding the reported poisoning and theft of cattle belonging to its members by criminal groups in Agato local government area. The chairman of Makban in the state, Risku Mohammed, raised this issue over the weekend, revealing that more than 20 cows owned by Fulani headsmen were poisoned on Saturday in Ucha village, Agatu. He further alleged that in addition to the poisoned cattle, over 200 cows were stolen last Thursday by the criminals. The situation was somewhat mitigated by the swift action of security forces who managed to apprehend one of the thieves, although others managed to flee. Mohammed accused a farmer from the Ucha community, whose name has not been disclosed, of poisoning the cows using rice chaff after inviting a herder to feed his cattle with it. This act, according to him, resulted in the death of 13 cows, while 7 others that survived are currently receiving treatment. He commended the local government council chairman, Melvin Ej, for promptly responding to issues concerning the herders and communities in the area, saying the local government chairman with some non-governmental organizations working in the LGA have several times paid for cows killed by these criminals. He revealed that herders have, at various times, lost numerous cows to criminals in Olegwede, Utigologu, Eguma, Akele, Okwatonebu, and now Ucha due to rustling and killings. When reached for comment, Melvin AJ, the chairman of Agatu local government area, confirmed that he had received the complaint from Makban. He assured that an investigation was underway, although a farmer has been apprehended in connection with the poisoned cows. He also mentioned that Agatu has recently experienced a period of relative peace, thanks to the support from the state government and the deployment of security personnel to the region. Now, in a very recent unfortunate development, assailants suspected to be headsmen have reportedly murdered and dismembered a young Igala graduate named John Johnson. VOP News understands that the disturbing incident happened in Zaina, close to Angwar Hakimi Orozo, within the Federal Capital Territory of Abuja. The incident occurred on March 29, 2025, while Johnson was participating in a boys' brigade camp. This young man was said to have already endured significant hardship, having lost his father the previous year after a lengthy illness. The chief of Igala in Orozo, Amadou Zakaria, confirmed the incident and expressed his sorrow about the attack. He criticized the security forces for their failure to capture Johnson's assailants. Zachariah elaborated on the circumstances surrounding the event, noting that the Boys Brigade had organized a camp for its members in Zaina. However, due to impending rain, the group relocated to a nearby church. Two leaders reportedly returned to collect their belongings when they were ambushed by the suspected headsmen. One leader, however, managed to escape, but Johnson was killed. He further stated that the police were informed, and upon investigation, they discovered that Fulani headsmen living in the area had fled. The leaders of the Fulani community promised to fish out the killers, but no arrest has been made up to now. Meanwhile, onto political situations in the country, veteran journalist and chieftain of the People's Democratic Party, Chief Dele Momodu, has advised Senate President Godswill Akpabio to seek peace with the suspended Kogi Central lawmaker, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Momodu submitted that there is no point in attempting to recall Senator Natasha over her allegation of sexual harassment against Akpabio. The PDP chieftain who weighed in on the confrontation between Natasha and Akpabio warned that the Senate president might eventually find himself on the losing end except he reconciles with the suspended Kogi senator. Speaking via Monitor television program, Chief Momodu submitted that everything Natasha has labored for would go up in smoke except he settles amicably with Natasha. He also criticized the disagreement between the Federal Capital Territory Minister, Nyesom Wike, and his predecessor in the state, Governor Sim Fubara, saying the personal disagreement between the two leaders has plunged the state into an avoidable political crisis. Meanwhile, also, Dele Momodu has submitted that the Senate President Godswill Akpabio is no longer the same person he used to know as the governor of Akwa Ibom State. Momodu, who spoke during a Monitor television program, said although they were never close, he admired that what Akpabio did as governor for the people of his state, but Akpabio, who is the current Senate President of Nigeria, is afraid of something. Speaking along the lines that the current crop of lawmakers is a rubber-stamp National Assembly under the leadership of Senator Akpabio, Momodu submitted that the federal lawmakers would approve a third term speedily if President Bola Tinubu moves for it. The veteran journalist suggested that Akpabio is most likely afraid of the presidency, adding that the Nigerian presidency is a powerful institution. You're currently listening to the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We'll take a very short break. When we return, we'll take more news and head into a news analysis segment. We'll be joined via the telephone with Barrister Fred Nzako. Barrister Fred Nzako is a political, national and social affairs commentator who will obviously be sharing his input on some of the stories read out on the World News at 6. Do kindly stay with us. All right. Thank you for staying with us. This is still the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. A federal high court in Port Harcourt has issued a summons to President Bola Tinubu and 7 others regarding the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State. The others named in the suit include the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, the National Assembly, and the Attorney General of the Federation. Also joined in the suit are the River Sole Administrator Vice Admiral Ibok Etta Ibas, the Revenue and Fiscal Mobilization Commission, and the Central Bank of Nigeria. Well, the case, which was brought by the Incorporated Trustees of People's Life Improvement Foundation, Precious Elekima and Inanna Wright Harry, the plaintiffs are challenging the legality of the emergency declaration and seeking the court's interpretation of its constitutionality. Among the key questions raised is whether President Tinubu's declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State on March 18 is unconstitutional, null and void. The plaintiffs argue that the move constitutes a breach of Article 13 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, Ratification and Enforcement Act, and Section 305, subsection 3b of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. They are also seeking a court order restraining the Rivers State Administrator from appointing caretaker committees for the 23 local government councils, forming a state executive council, awarding contracts, or making any financial transactions from the state treasury. The plaintiffs are demanding the restoration of democracy in Rivers State by reinstating the suspended executive and legislative arms of government. They are also asking the court to issue a perpetual injunction restraining the president from further suspending democratically elected officials in the state. The court has given the defendants 30 days to respond to the summons. It warned that failure to respond could result in the case proceeding in their absence. The legal action was filed by Ebere R. Uguja Esquire on behalf of the plaintiffs. Barrister Fred Inzako, good evening and thank you for joining us on the World News at 6.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you very much. Barrister Fred, apparently the president has been summoned. Senate President Godswill Akpabio has been summoned. Tajuddin Abbas, that is the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and obviously the Attorney General of the Federation. These individuals have been summoned to court, basically for them to ensure that they present themselves at the court. The suit includes these individuals, and obviously the case is concerning if they legally have the right to instill a state of emergency in Rivers State, under what circumstances that state of emergency was enacted, and if the president has the responsibility or has the right to suspend a democratically elected governor. Now, the big question is this: will these particular individuals respond to the court? That's one. Two, Nigerians no longer trust the judicial process as to how things go. They feel that the political elite will definitely take advantage of the court. Do you see this case heading anywhere whatsoever?
There are many questions that may arise from such exercise. You have asked one of the questions, which is whether the individuals will attend to the court summons.
Yes.
The other questions are, one, can Mr. President be asked to come to court?
Yes.
Having regards to immunity that has covered his office. Two, are the individuals legal personalities in the eye of the law? Are they concerned, and to what extent are they concerned with the matter in Rivers State? Will they not be described as meddlesome interlopers? And three, it is a matter that is it such a matter that an individual will query? I think the most critical matter in court with regards to Rivers State state of emergency declaration is the one by the governors. The PDP governors had come together and had sued the federal government.
The APC is saying that they haven't seen any suit.
Well, that is what we are told, that they have sued the federal government. And of course, you know that in any matter between the states and the federation and the federal government, it goes direct to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has the original and the sole jurisdiction to hear any matter between the federation and any component part of it, that is the states. And we hear that the parties have gone to court,
yes,
asking the Supreme Court to declare null and void the declaration of state of emergency, which was accentuated by National Assembly. At any rate, even when there is a matter between the National Assembly and the federal government, it goes direct to the Supreme Court. So, in all cases and in all facts, it is the Supreme Court that will take a look into this matter. And that is the only one that Nigerians are expecting to hear and to see the pronouncement of the court. All these other suits on the fringes, some of them will be mere legalistic exercise. Some others will be mere expression of grievance and expression of discontentment. But by the time the issues are critically looked at in the court of law, they may not hold their waters, because some of those questions which we have earlier asked may not be answered in the positive direction that will sustain the suit. But what is critical and what is important is we want to hear what the Supreme Court will say. Because some people are arguing that in 2003, 2004, when Joshua Darie was removed, that they went to court and the matter went up to the Supreme Court. But there's an argument that the Supreme Court did not make a definite pronouncement before the expiration of the state of emergency and Joshua Darie regained his position. I do not know exactly whether that was true. But if that was true, then a very big, robust legal precedence may have been set in that regard, which will now make it very easy for this particular one to sail through. And but if it's not true that the Supreme Court did not make a definite judgment or pronouncement, then this time around it will be an opportunity for Supreme Court to make a definite pronouncement.
Well, Barrister, ever since this information, a lot of Nigerians and political analysts, believe that this is an effortless process, from the plaintiff. Or they feel that they suing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Senate President, as well as the Speaker of the House of Representatives and the Attorney General of the Federation is an effort in futility. They also feel that the judiciary has been hoodwinked by these particular political bureaucrats. And if the Attorney General of the Federation or Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, has come out to authenticate and validate, the proceeding or the announcement of a state of emergency in Rivers State, then in what way would the Superior Court go otherwise? And if indeed they're able to present their evidence or argue, intelligently to curtail or, side-wing what the president used as his form for declaring that state of emergency, on what ground will these executives obey it?
Anybody who says that the judiciary has been hoodwinked is making a private statement that is not substantiated. Because that means that if you generally feel that the judiciary has been hoodwinked, then there is no need going to court. Those are mere personal expressions. If anybody feels that his right is breached, the person still has every constitutional authority to go to court. So assert his right, and that is what is going to take place in this case. Those who say that the people who have gone to court will not see the light of the day, they are not saying so because of the allegation of the corruption in the judiciary or the allegation of the executive hoodwinking the judiciary. They are saying so essentially because of the fact that the matter may not have been well presented before the court. Mr. President enjoys immunity. Any matter brought against his person is dead on arrival. You can sue the federal government through the office of the Attorney General of the Federation, irrespective of what the Attorney General feels. Don't forget that the Attorney General is the advisor to the federal government on legal matters. And it doesn't mean that the court, that anything said by the Attorney General is holistic and cannot be challenged. You can go to court to challenge the advice of the Attorney General and challenge the action of the federal government and seek redress. And that is what should be done. For you to go and sue Mr. President in person, then that suit is dead on arrival because of the immunity clause that is enshrined in our Constitution. Yes, you can sue the President of the Senate. He doesn't have immunity. You can sue the Speaker of the House of Reps. He doesn't have immunity. But to join Mr. President in the suit will now spoil the whole suit completely.
So you're saying that the president can do anything, and even if you take it to court, it would not hold water because of his immunity?
Yes, immunity says the person of Mr. President cannot be sued, but the office can be sued because that is the federal government.
Yes.
So if you take a suit against the federal government, it will be listened to. But if you take a suit against Mr. President in person, you are suing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, you are wasting your time because the courts will not assume jurisdiction on that matter because of the immunity clause.
Interesting. Now, Barrister Fred Nzako, let's look at IPOB crying out Apparently, IPOB is asking its members to protect themselves and they should be on alert, both those who reside in the north and every other part of the country, as well as those who are currently residing in the southeast. According to what IPOB is saying through Ima Powerful, they're alleging that some Arewa groups and Arewa influencers are inciting violent assaults on Igbos and Christians in the north due to the killings in Edo State. 2 days ago, we saw on social media a particular WhatsApp broadcast that were privy to see, where some individuals deliberately falsified the narrative of the gruesome and barbaric incident that took place in Uromi and Son Edo State by saying that it is the Southeasterners or the Igbos who reside in Edo State, that they were the ones who actually carried out that barbaric situation, and they were calling on their members to revenge. And the group is warning the Hausa community to stay clear of ethnic tensions that could be detrimental to them. In fact, IPOB has been able to disclose that one individual whose name is Uche Abagana in Kofaruwa, Kano, due to the incident in Edo State, were killed by some Fulani criminals, and that he's innocent of what transpired in Edo State. What concerns Igbos with what transpired in Edo State? So as it stands now, IPOB is alerting, or rather saying, that it is quite unfortunate, but that it is important for members to maintain security, maintain law and order, and be vigilant and prepare themselves. As it stands, according to him, that the federal government prioritizes the lives of the Fulanese over those of indigenous Nigerians, especially for Indios. How would you react to this statement?
My reaction will not be killed behind the statement by IPOB. This morning, I had the opportunity to appear on another platform on a national television, and I warned that the Igbos should not be made scapegoat on this issue because of the fact that some ignorant people, some overzealous people have already started issuing threats and warnings that there could be reprisal attacks on Southerners in the north. And it is important. It's important that we warn that such should not take place. It's also important that we encourage the leaders in the north, both the religious leaders, political leaders, and the community leaders, to speak to their people, educate them, and let them know that such a reprisal is not necessary because the government is taking care of the issues that arose in Uromi. And that is also in line with the fact that government should act famously to arrest the people who committed that heinous crime that is condemnable. But it is very, very critical and important that Igbos are not made the scapegoat. Historical experience of incidences like this in Nigeria over the years, over the decades, have shown that whenever there are breaches of peace, the Igbos would most times be made the scapegoat. They are the ones who have the shops, they are the ones who have the businesses all around the country, and then it becomes easy for the miscreants, especially of the northern extraction, to descend on the businesses and properties and assets of the Igbos, mindlessly looting and destroying their properties and assets, and in some cases killing them. And it is important that the leaders should warn and restrain their followers from so doing. We do not expect that in 21st century Nigeria, even though there is limited level of education, but at least there should be not be limited level of wisdom and the dissemination of information. Because irrespective of level of education that one may have in the country, at least there is native interaction. The people are not spoken to in languages other than the ones that they know. So it is the responsibility of the leaders to speak to the people and restrain them and let them know that people do not cause any problem.
Barrister
so
Fred,
these miscreants will not descend on the assets and businesses of the Igbos, because that will further unsettle the land and create further tension and disunity that we don't need in this country anymore.
Barrister Fred, is quite unfortunate, to be honest with you, because the recent happening, the alacrity, the velocity and response from the federal government and all influencers, especially northern influencers who normally don't talk all and sundry. The reaction, however, has been overwhelming, but there have been complaints of a lot of individuals in several regions of the country being mutilated, being killed, being harassed, being raped, being murdered by this Fulani terrorists. Now, Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, MACBAN, in Benue State, are expressing serious concerns about reported poisoning and thefts of cattle belonging to its members by criminal groups in Agato local government. And he raised this issue over the weekend. He alleged that in addition to the poisoned cattle, over 200 cows were stolen last Thursday by these criminals. Now, according to Mohammed, he's accusing a particular farmer from Ucha community, whose name has not been disclosed, of poisoning the cows using rice chaff after inviting a herder to feed his cattle with it. According to him, this resulted in the death of 13 cows, while 7 others that survived are currently receiving treatment. As it stands now, this particular farmer has been arrested by the authorities and is going through questionings. Barrister Fred Nzako, there are a lot of videos where these herders have invaded people's farmlands, uprooted their crops, killed and done all whatnot. And this Fulani association, MACBAN, has not come out to say anything. They usually go mute. Nobody is caught, nobody is apprehended. Very recently in Jos Plateau State, mourners were killed. Also in Yobe, soldiers were killed. Several communities being raided by ISWAP and Lakurawa are killed, and we're not seeing any immediate response. We're not hearing that velocity and alacrity in terms of attention to these killings. So is this particular narrative being formed in such a way that a certain geopolitical location has the audacity to commit heinous crimes and do what that they want to do, and when the people resort to self-help, then the federal government puts the gavel down on the people trying to protect themselves? Please help me describe this scenario.
The tension between herders and farmers, the brouhaha, the bad blood between them, the quarrels, the disputes, often the bloodletting that we'll see. I will squarely blame that on Nigerian society for allowing herders to continue to practice this itinerant type of animal husbandry. We have said times without number that no country that is serious with its unity and with its agriculture, especially its animal husbandry, that will allow migration, husbandry by migration and movement of cows and cattle from one point to the other, causing mayhem along the way, disturbing the businesses and the efforts and sweat of the farmers, and the uprooting and damaging their farmland, and in some cases killing the farmers in the process. There is no country that will tolerate that, and there's no society that will make progress in the face of this type of anomaly. And we say that government must put its feet on ground and change the dynamics and the direction and the modus and the process and the style of our animal husbandry. There is nothing wrong with ranching, and we have said this time and time again. Mr. President recently inaugurated a committee headed by Atahiru Jega to advise Professor Atahiru Jega, former INEC chairman, to advise the government on issues relating to animal husbandry. Up to today, we are yet to see the report of that committee and how well the committee is attacking this problem. The problem continues, the problem persists, and we cannot have peace if we do not change the style. Because there's no way you will allow a herder to rear his animal across the farmland of a farmer who, in some cases, may have taken loan, agric loan to plant, and then only to see the effort being wasted by herders. It is not possible that we will have peace in the face of such infraction. It is the duty of government at all levels to ensure that there is peace in the land, and anything that is causing this breach of peace must be arrested and nipped in the bud. We know how to do this, but the will and determination to do that is lacking. Now it will snowball into crisis of confidence among ethnic nationalities and tribal interests in the country. How long are we going to remain insane that forgiveness will abound.
Barrister, Deputy House of Representatives Speaker or Speaker of the House of Rep. Barau Jibrin, I have never heard him for once come out to castigate and criticize these Fulani marauders that have been killing people. I have never heard any of these northerners come out to categorically call out these Fulani guys for terrorizing, committing mayhem, destabilizing communities across Nigeria. I have never heard any of these political bureaucrats come out and stand firm and call their people to order to stop this. I have never heard it. And then I see the velocity and alacrity of the response to the unfortunate barbaric situation that happened in Uromi. A situation where people have been crying out consistently every day that their means of livelihood are being destroyed by these individuals, people who borrowed money from banks, due on loans to farm on their land, to eat. And then these people take advantage of these farmlands. We don't hear any of those political executives say anything about it. Please, Barrister Fred Nzako, how are we living in harmony? What kind of message is that passing across? And even if we want to call on the security agencies work on the expedition from the executive or from these political executives who are at the top. So at this point in time, there is a call from all quarters for this to stop. How soon will there be an order for the immediate stoppage of these marauders attacking people and taking over their farmlands?
The life of every Nigerian is important, not only to the country, but most especially to his family, friends, and relations. Every life matters. So irrespective of where the life is decimated, it will not be tolerated that anybody is killed in the process. And when certain things happen, silence is not always golden. Some silence may be out of mischief or out of malice or out of ill will. Now, what is important and what is critical is that we operate constitutional democracy. We are not an animal farm where might is right. And what we do, we set the standard through the rule of law. If Nigeria comes today and says no more migration of animals from one point to the other, if you want to engage in animal husbandry, you want to engage in animal farming, you go and build ranches. What you do is, if they don't have the money, you give them loan through the agric bank for them to come and build ranches. It will solve so many problems. Not only will it make the industry more buoyant, it will solve the problems of insecurity. And we know this. The question is, why is Nigeria not doing what is good for them? Why will Nigerian leaders keep waiting for issues to escalate before they do what is right? What is right in, there is nothing good about moving animals from Sokoto to the south or from Meduguri to Port Harcourt. There's nothing good in it. The north has large land mass that it is very easy to build ranches in the north. It's also easy to build ranches in any part of the country, because Netherlands, that is the whole of the Netherlands, is less than half the size of southern Nigeria. They are the biggest producers of animal milk. So what are we telling ourselves? We only don't want to do what is right. And a country that is so massively blessed, but leadership is the bane of Nigerian society. It is the fault of the leaders. And at the end of the day, when the followers do what is wrong, then the whole country is affected. Until we do what is right in this country, we cannot stop getting what is wrong from all parts of the country. Today, we are certain about Uromi. The other day, it was in Agatu.
Yes.
People killed. Even last week, many people were killed in Edo State.
Yes.
And it continues all around the country. So, and when we know what the problem is, and we are not solving it, does that make us wise people? It does not. It makes us a people who run away from the reality and who do not want to do what is right for themselves. And it is extremely very, very unfortunate.
Barrister Fred Nzako, thank you so much for actually giving us insights into some of the stories read out in the World News at 6. We sincerely do appreciate your input.
Many thanks.
Thank you very much. On stories outside the shores of Nigeria, authorities in Gaza today warned against possible Israeli crimes in Rafah, southern Gaza Strip, following the Israel Army's evacuation orders and intensified attacks. In a statement, the Interior Ministry said Israeli threats would exacerbate the already catastrophic conditions the people are enduring in Gaza, warning against intensification of crimes against the Palestinian people. The statement urged the international community and mediators to urgently intervene and pressure Israel to stop the evacuation orders and attempts to displace the Palestinian people from Gaza. Israeli army spokesman Avichai Adre has ordered the evacuation of Palestinians in Rafah's areas of Al-Shaka, Al-Nasiri, and the neighborhoods of Al-Salam, Al-Manara, and Kizan and Najjar. In a very recent development, former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has weighed in on a court ruling that banned French far-right leader Marine Le Pen from seeking public office for 5 years, saying it was left-wing judicial activism. Le Pen on Monday was convicted of embezzlement in a watershed ruling that knocked her out of the 2027 presidential race unless she can win an appeal. This ruling is clearly left-wing judicial activism. Wherever the right wing is present, the left and the system will work to get their opponents out of the game, Bolsonaro disclosed in an exclusive interview with Reuters. France's Justice Ministry did not immediately respond to a request for comment. And that's a wrap on the world news at 6. My name is Esther Wachuku. Good evening and thank you for listening. Up next is the Evening Rush at 7.